Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought that I would review this little video that I personally found very particularly interesting. This is going to be a video by the boxing channel known as DontesBoxingNation, probably the channel that I tend to review the most on my channel. And I may start doing more videos overall where I kind of just commentate by myself. But a lot of the times, I also do like to commentate on certain videos, why I review other videos or channels. And the main reason why that is to show their true motivations. Now, DontesBoxingNation is going to mention a topic that, in my opinion, is very particularly interesting here and is necessary to talk about. And what he's going to be talking about is a fight that I believe happened over 20 years ago. And this was a Manny Pacquiao fight. Manny Pacquiao, of course, I believe, ever since his professional career, he's been pretty much fighting ever since he's been about 14 to 16 years old, or somewhere around there. He fought at a very, very young age, which is not always uncommon when you talk about some of these third world countries or some of these countries that maybe you're not European or maybe overall maybe not, quite as wealthy, something like that. Anyways, when it comes down, of course, Canelo, he's from Mexico. I believe he started probably at about 13, somewhere around there, for those of you that know. But anyways, that's besides the point. Anyways, Manny Pacquiao, about 20 some years ago, about 22 years ago now, I believe, had a fight, I believe, against a Middle Eastern slash Arab fighter, I believe by the name of Nadal Hussein. And Manny Pacquiao ended up winning that fight, I believe, by TKO. It was stopped overall because of a true head clash, but the referee actually called it a punch that landed. And because of the cuts, I believe that the fight was ended. Not only did the referee admit overall finally that, he ended up doing it, kind of to support Manny Pacquiao and because he was Filipino and Manny Pacquiao was Filipino and he wanted overall the hometown hero basically to win the fight. But on top of that, he thought that Manny Pacquiao would have a little bit of problems with Nadal Hussein, and overall he knew that he had to give Manny Pacquiao certain advantages. And this is not something on the note that I'm really too surprised about because this really happens in boxing quite a bit. This happens in the Olympics, this happens in the professionals, this happens overall throughout a great amount of boxing matches. Not saying that it happens in every fight, but boxing, is really probably the most crooked sport that you're going to find out there. And every sport out there, in my opinion, has a little bit of crookedness to it, or it has a little bit of dirtiness to it, a little bit of shadiness under it. I think that when you talk about the NBA commissioners and the NFL commissioners, I think that there are certain players or certain teams that get more calls than other ones, especially if they're worth more money to that of the NFL or that to the NBA. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think when LeBron James is in the playoffs, that he gets a decent amount more calls or fouls overall than any other player within the league on his side. It just is what it is. It probably was the same for Michael Jordan. It probably was the same for a certain amount of other players. When you talk about tennis, and for those of you that have seen my tennis videos, you know that, in my opinion, Novak Djokovic is probably at least the best, maybe even debatably the greatest player out of the big three between himself, Rafael Nadal, and Roger Federer. Well, I thought it was very extremely odd that all of a sudden they banned Novak Djokovic because he did not have the COVID vaccine, even though COVID-19 has pretty much been around for a couple of years, very widely spread known, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, when Novak Djokovic looks like he's going to be leading mainly in the race, all of a sudden out of nowhere, that's when they decide to ban him for 2 out of the 4 tournaments this year. And overall, luckily for Djokovic and unfortunate for the tennis associations, when it came down to it, did not work for them because, in my opinion, what their goal was, and some people may believe that, I'm alleging something that cannot be proven here, and to a degree, I would admit that. But in my opinion, what their goal was to do, at least with the Australian Open, was to make sure that Rafael Nadal is the all-time Grand Slam leader. But it really didn't work for them as much as what they thought it would because Rafael Nadal underperformed, I believe, in a couple of overall the Grand Slams. Of course, he underperformed in the Wimbledon, where apparently he had an injury, and in the U.S. Open, he was absolutely awful. So it is what it is. But anyways, I think that's what their main goal was. My point being is this, and of course you had the steroid, era in the 90s with baseball, when it comes down to it. In the NFL, there's certain things that happen as well. There's a lot of cheating that goes around, in my opinion. Not saying that everything is necessarily fixed, but there are certain things that the commissioners and maybe certain people want things to be. And in boxing, I don't know if there's a more crooked sport. There's a lot of fighters, in my opinion, that take steroids. There's a lot of fighters, in my opinion, to where, yes, they've clearly had overall the judges somewhat on their side or the referee somewhat favored them. This has been happening for years upon years upon years upon years. But anyways, this is mainly about a Manny Pacquiao situation. But we're mainly going to be talking about 3 topics here. We're going to be talking about Manny Pacquiao, and in my opinion, what this does to his career, and in my opinion, does it change overall what I believe about how great of a fighter that he is. Number two, we're going to be talking about the cheating in boxing and what, in my opinion, happens here and there and certain examples of cheating or overall fixed fights. And C, we're going to be talking about the Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder situation. Now, some of you may say, well, this is a Manny Pacquiao situation. What the hell does Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder have to do with anything here? Well, if you take a look at the thumbnail here, and if you know anything about Dante's Boxing Nation and the rest of the LDBC and new media, they've been very, very, very deeply depressed ever since overall Deontay X. Overall, they're basically new Malcolm X or their new Martin Luther King figure when it comes down to a Deontay Wilder. They've been very, very, very thoroughly depressed, very deeply depressed ever since that he got his ass whooped against Tyson Fury. And there's just no other way to put it because he got thoroughly dominated, in my opinion, in 3 out of the 3 fights. It just is what it is. And I have no personal problem with Deontay Wilder. I think overall that he's a very entertaining fighter. I think that maybe you could argue that he's a very good fighter to decently great fighter with what he's accomplished, at least debatably. But in my opinion, these allegations that a lot of the people overall always try to bring up about Tyson Fury with him allegedly messing with the gloves, and not only that, but Deontay was poisoned. Not only that, but Tyson Fury put something in his gloves and removed padding at the same time. Not only that, but apparently Deontay Wilder's corner was in on it. Not only that, but apparently the referee was in on it and they gave Tyson Fury a long count. Just all this stupid bullshit, which in reality, there really was no evidence for. Now, of course, Dante, what he is really going to do, what he's going to try to do is that he's going to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He does not like Manny Pacquiao that much because Manny Pacquiao, of course, he is a threat in terms of the GOAT conversation, at least in his opinion. Now, in my opinion, this is just my view. I don't think that Manny Pacquiao is on the same level as a Floyd Mayweather Jr. And some people overall may disagree, but listen, at the end of the day, Floyd Mayweather Jr. ended up undefeated in his career. I believe that he was the more skilled fighter of the two, and he proved that when they ended up facing off, I believe in 2015 it was. And in my opinion, he pretty much won the fight either 8 rounds to 4 or 9 rounds to 3. So Floyd Mayweather Jr., in my opinion, is up there with anybody. And Manny Pacquiao is debatably up there with anybody. But I would have to say that Manny Pacquiao is probably about a level below Floyd Mayweather Jr., which is nothing to be ashamed of. Floyd Mayweather Jr., you could truly debate, in my opinion, that no one is truly on his level. But that's what Dante is going to try to do. He's always tried to degrade Manny Pacquiao in terms of his all-time great level. I don't think there's any debate about it. Manny Pacquiao very clearly is an all-time great fighter. If you don't want to debate him overall within your top 5, that's fine. But I think that Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, is anywhere from top 10 to top 20 at the very least. And some would debate him as top 5. But it's really up to you. Excuse me. But not only is Dante going to try to do that, basically what he's going to try to prove, even with no evidence whatsoever, he's going to try to say, see, this type of stuff does happen in the sport of boxing. So Tyson Fury overall should be overall held accountable for allegedly cheating Deontay Wilder, because we all know apparently there was these long counts, which is a bunch of bullshit. And that's not me saying that some of the counts overall were not a bit drawn out, but they weren't to the point overall to where I can say that there was some clear, tomfoolery going on or some clear cheating. At the very worst, maybe they were around 10.5 to 11 seconds. And some people may say, well, that's over 10 seconds, and it should have been a knockout, right? But in the sport of boxing, when it comes to the count, it's not really overall a 10 seconds like it would be on a timer. And even if we are doing it on a timer, Tyson Fury still got up within about 10 seconds, both times. So it just, there really is no story here. But Dante, of course, and overall his fleet of overall, very racially insecure dudes, when it comes down to it, they're going to talk about it because they're very thoroughly depressed that their boy Deontay Wilder ended up losing that fight. But anyways, let's get into the video. I thought that I would talk about it. Let's tune in.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So this story right here is going to be one of the most important stories to pay attention to. We know that when Deontay Wilder faced Tyson Fury, there were long counts for Tyson Fury when he was on the canvas, and not only the first fight, but the third fight as well.
No, there wasn't really any long counts. What happened with Deontay Wilder is that he knocked Tyson Fury down. He was not in his neutral corner. So overall, the count was a little bit elongated. And even if you were doing a normal count, Tyson Fury got up within a normal time anyway. So all this bullshit about Dante when it comes down to it, saying that, all this shit, this is why a lot of people don't really take what Dante has to say seriously. or really if we're truly going to go there. This is why a lot of people overall don't take certain counts of alleged racism very seriously. Because people like Dante's Boxing Nation, they make a lot of the claims and a lot of the allegations very irrelevant because they almost claim that every ounce that they can almost try to find is alleged racism. Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder with this alleged long count. That's not really what racism is. Racism overall, when it comes down to it, is when you see some of these referees or some of these fighters or some of these judges behind the scene overall finally admit their true feelings about some of these other demographics, or maybe overall they may not treat certain fighters of a different demographic the same. And sometimes that can happen. But when you're talking about Jack Reese and Jose Mora, I believe overall, which were the two referees, Jack Reese, I believe, in the first fight, and I believe Jose Mora, if I'm pronouncing his name right, in the third fight, in the final fight, his counts were the same for both Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. What people never mention is that Jose Mora gave Deontay Wilder the same amount of preparation when he got knocked down as what he gave Tyson Fury, but no one ever talks about that. Anyway.
A veteran referee, Carlos Padilla, he comes out, does an interview for the WBC, and admits to cheating for Manny Pacquiao by giving him extra time when he got knocked down and he was really hurt against Nadal Hussein. He laughs about it now, talking about how he prolonged the count and how he knows how to do it. But believe it or not, that wasn't the only time Padilla admitted to cheating in this fight in favor of Manny Pacquiao. Now, this part right here is even worse to me. So, just in case you guys don't know, that fight ended in a TKO, a win for Manny Pacquiao. Well, the reason why the fight was stopped because Hussein, he had a cut. But the cut was from a headbutt, which Carlos Padilla admits in this interview that he acknowledged. He knew it was a headbutt, but he said he told them that it was a punch. And because he ruled it as a punch, the fight was declared a TKO win for Manny Pacquiao. If he would have ruled it as the headbutt that it was, the fight would have went to the scorecards, and Hussein would have won. And then on top of all of that,
I would have to watch the fight for myself, but what DontesBoxingNation is saying here, I really don't have any doubt about it whatsoever. I really don't have a doubt about it. Once again, I believe that there is a lot of cheating in boxing that does end up happening, and this is just one of the few cases that you could probably see possibly a referee doing this. I don't really know any specific examples off the top of my head, but this is not the first time, and it certainly will not be the last time in boxing that this ends up happening. Now, for some of you that may ask me, well, do you think that this changes Manny Pacquiao's career? Do you think that overall it negatively impacts him? Well, it might negatively impact him a little bit, but with all of what Manny Pacquiao has done within his career, I just don't think that I can truly say that this is enough overall for me to allege something of a sort to where I can say, you know what, Manny, all of a sudden we can't take your career seriously. Now, some may say, well, overall, why would you not say that? Because the referee just blatantly admitted that he cheated for Manny Pacquiao in a fight that he maybe was potentially losing. And that certainly is correct. But if you're going to allege that with a Manny Pacquiao, I really don't have a problem with it, and I would respect the opinion. But then at the same time, when it comes to other guys that have had certain controversies within the sport of boxing, certain fighters like that of a Sugar Shane Mosley, or certain fighters even like that of a Canelo, or even certain fighters of, other calibers, if I were going to mention them, Aaron Pryor, for example, you would have to state all in all that all of a sudden their careers have to be in question. So I don't really have a problem if you're going to go there, but you have to be consistent. For example, a lot of people don't talk about Aaron Pryor with his, completely dirty trainer over, I believe Panama Lewis was his name, the same dude over that took the padding out of the gloves of that one Puerto Rican fighter that ended up, beating up Billy Conlon, I believe, or Colin, whatever the hell his name was, that one American white guy, I believe, or whatever the hell he was. Panama Lewis, I believe, gave allergy medicine to Aaron Pryor in that Alexis Arguello rematch, I believe it was, and probably gave it in the first fight too. He clearly said, give me the bottle that I mixed, and more than likely it was allergy medicine when it came down to it in order for him to get more of a breath. And then all of a sudden, he was able to knock Alexis Arguello out, I believe, within the final round. And in my opinion, that actually is one of the bigger instances of cheating to where I can't necessarily take that fight as seriously, because that is a significant advantage that you would not have without the medicine. Kind of someone like steroids as well. But, it is what it is. Deontay Wilder's another situation as well, to where he clearly had a fixed fight with Malik Scott. So we could question all this. Listen, my point being is this. I just don't know if this one single circumstance is enough for me to say Manny Pacquiao is not a great fighter if you were going to go there. I don't think that most people are going to go there, but that's just my opinion of the situation because Manny Pacquiao still did a lot of great things within his career. He beat Hatton, he beat Cotto. Overall, he ended up beating Sugar Shane Mosley. He beat Marquez. He beat Timothy Bradley. He beat Keith Thurman. He was able to beat a multitude of other guys that I'm probably not even mentioning at the moment, Morales and Barrera. And none of those fights, at least to me, look too controversial. So I just don't know if I would say that it negatively impacts his career to a great degree because there's been other controversies that, in my opinion, were debatably bigger than this. Now, the one cheating scandal in boxing history, at least with the fighter that seemed to be a champion, the one cheating scandal, in my opinion, to where I would say, 100%, I have to question each and every single one of your fights before you were caught, was the Antonio Margarito case. And the reason why that is because Antonio Margarito, with the way that he was cheating and the type of way that he was cheating, when it came down to it, the advantage was so significant to where if you didn't have it overall in the majority of your fights, they probably would have been way, 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 way different. So that is something. But with Manny Pacquiao and some of these other guys like a Sugar Shane Mosley, even with the steroids, and I already tell people this, steroids is a little bit difficult for me to denigrate a lot of these fighters because I think so many of them are on them anyway. I just think that it's hidden. It just is what it is. But this, of course, is a very clear case of cheating or going for the hometown fighter. Do I think it's enough to really derail Manny Pacquiao's whole entire career? I don't think so, but it is a great prime example of how dirty the sport can be.
Cut looked like it was underneath Hussein's eye. And when the doctor seen the cut, he didn't say anything to Hussein. He just looked at it for a quick second and then just stopped the fight, which comes off like he was in cahoots with the referee and Manny Pacquiao. Guys,
Yeah, more than likely he was.
this is a major injustice. And what makes it even crazier is, once again, this referee, Carlos Padilla, he's doing this interview for the WBC. So the WBC, they heard this man make these admissions that he actually cheated multiple times just to secure a win for Manny Pacquiao. So the WBC, they could have decided not to put this interview up. But despite knowing that he said all of these things, the WBC, they still put this interview up on their website. And just remember, it was the WBC president that was going out of his way defending Tyson Fury when there were accusations of Tyson cheating in any fashion.
Well, what I will say is this: when it comes down to it, the WBC, as well as a lot of other boxing organizations, listen, every single one of the boxing organizations, they're pretty much, they're pretty much overall as crooked overall as anything that you've ever seen. That is, very, very crooked. I don't know how else to put it. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, once again, I don't see any realistic evidence, at least in my opinion, to where I seen anything with Tyson Fury's gloves or the drugging of Deontay Wilder. I'm sorry, but I've just never seen anything super duper realistic with that. Now, there are certain people that say, well, you said in the past that, in your opinion, Tyson Fury wasn't cheating, but then you stated also that, apparently he was, possibly on steroids. What's the difference? Well, the difference is that I think most of these fighters are on steroids, including Deontay Wilder, even though I can't 100% confirm that. But messing with your gloves, that is something that is a completely different ball game because there's a lot of fighters that are on steroids. However, there's not a lot of fighters that are taking padding or putting overall egg weights into the gloves, which is not something that Tyson Fury did anyway. It just is what it is. That has basically already been proven. All the shit overall that a lot of these guys like DontesBoxingNation have brought up has already been disproven overall. It's already been proven pretty much as a falsity. Yet they're still trying to bring it up once again because their racial pride is hurt.
But yet, when it came to Gervonta Tank Davis, the WBC, they came out and accused Gervonta Tank Davis of having loaded gloves. But shortly after they put that post up,
and that does show the bias of the WBC. But you know what, Dante? Why does Gervonta Tank Davis not overall apparently have a compelling case? Because you would not even look into that case. I don't have a problem with you stating that that's a biased look. I have no problem with that. But let's be real, Dante. Even if there was a realistic case of Gervonta Tank Davis, you wouldn't look at it.
They deleted it. With that being said, before I keep talking, let's go ahead and get into the actual video. This is Carlos Padilla, once again, admitting to everything he did to get Manny Pacquiao the win. Now, by the way, just to set this up for you guys so you know exactly what Padilla is talking about at the beginning. Padilla, he starts off by saying, they told me that this is a really important fight for Manny Pacquiao. If he gets past this fight, he gets to fight for a world title, et cetera, et cetera. But I wonder, who is they when he said this? And that's what the guy who was interviewing him should have asked him. Who is they? But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into the interview. Check it out.
He will have a chance to fight for the world.
Before we continue, later on into the video, boxing once again is a very corrupt sport. And even though overall I am a very big avid watcher of the sport, that is just something that you're going to have to accept of the sport. It just is what it is. That is also a lot of the times why you see certain decisions that go very, very awry. You will never see another sport to where the judges are probably as corrupt as what they are in terms of boxing. It just is what it is. And whenever there is a split decision, whenever overall that there is a very close fight, and whenever they decide to split decision, it's not going to the person that all the time looks like they 100% won the fight. It's going to the person that is more marketable. It's going to the person that is the A side. That's why when you've seen overall the Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev fight, now that was a fight that could have been, debatably been for Andre Ward. I really don't have a problem with Andre Ward getting it, but with the split decision, it was really never going to go to Sergey Kovalev in the first place, because Andre Ward, of course, is a Black American fighter, and those fighters tend to be more marketable overall than what the Russian fighters tend to be. So it just is what it is. So, like I said, it all depends on basically how marketable you are. That's why you've seen Josh Taylor, overall with Jack Catterall, a fight that I personally thought Josh Taylor lost. That's why Josh Taylor got the decision. When you're talking about Canelo versus Lara or Canelo versus Golovkin the first time around, the Lara fight I thought was a fight that could have potentially went either way. When I take a look at it today, I would probably give it to Canelo by a bit. But if you thought that Lara won, there really was no way that Lara was going to get that decision. It is what it is. Once again, boxing overall goes with, or I'm not going to say that there's no way, but oftentimes, especially when someone is marketable, they're the ones that is going to get the split decision. It just is what it is. Jamel Charlo also with Tony Harrison, and also that draw that he got against Brian Gastano. The reason why they scored it for Jamel Charlo, a draw, which is probably one of the more worst decisions that I've seen over the past few years, against Brian Gastano in the first fight. Reason why that is because Jamel Charlo, he has more marketability. He has more marketable value. He earns more money. So once again, that's what boxing is mainly concerned with. And to a degree, that's what all the sports are, somewhat concerned with. That's not me saying that it's fixed 100%, but they do want things to turn out a certain way. And they will overall try to give you slight calls or slight advantages. There's only so much they can take it, to a certain degree, but they will try to get you there.
Championship. So, I post for my coming back here, and the opponent, Hashim or whatever his name, he's taller, younger, stronger, and dirty fighter. Managed by Jeff Phoenix, the trainer from Australia. So, in the seventh round, I think, Manny got knocked down. I thought he's going to get up because his eyes are like a cross iron. Because I am a Filipino and everybody's Filipino watching the fight. So I prolonged.
I love that shit overall when the Filipinos overall talk about it. I'm Filipino. Anyway.
Count. I know how to do it. And when he get up, I still, hey, are you okay? And that's prolonging the fight. Are you okay? Okay, fight. And then Phoenix.
The partner swirls his opponent around so that he has an advantage. Tinamaan yun! That was a punch! Bumagsak si Manny!
YouTube Premium gives you ad-free videos, mobile downloads, and background play. With it,
Ayan, bumagsak po si Manny Pacquiao here. Ako, delikado dito si Manny. Delikado dito si Manny. Ayan, tinatanong ng Carlos Padilla. Yung hilo pa. Hilo si Manny Pacquiao. Hilo si Manny. He's coming in. Maaga po sa round number 4.
He was not trained by Freddie Roach yet. He holds for his dear life. And the guy pushed him. He went down again. I said, hey, to the opponent, You don't do that. You don't prolong it. You don't do that. Huh? That's what. Okay, judges. Get action. Get action. You know, Manny is still still groggy.
Kaibigan, hinahabol nila yun. Oh, good right kay Hussein. Hilo pa rin si Manny Pacquiao. Dapat tumawak muna si Manny. Yan, imayakap si Manny Pacquiao. Pero hindi rin wrestling.
Okay, guys, so I think the interpretation right there when it comes to the subtitles was wrong. It clearly sounded like Carlos Padilla, he said that Manny Pacquiao was still groggy. He was still hurt. And then Carlos makes another admission by saying that he took a point away from Hussein just to buy Manny Pacquiao time. So Padilla, he pulled out all the tricks.
Yes, I agree overall, and it's very clear that Padilla overall that he was told that Manny Pacquiao overall that's it's possible that he had a little bit of later on value, or at least that he was the hometown hero, and maybe overall you'll get certain advantages, or you may get there might be consequences if overall you don't do what we tell you to do. That's why not too long ago when I stated when there was the Piotr Jan versus Sugar Sean O'Malley fight. And I stated all in all that, in my opinion, Dana White had something to do with Sugar Sean O'Malley getting that decision. Because in my opinion, it was a very poor decision. Even though certain people disagreed with me, I had certain people saying, "Oh, that's a brain dead take. You're stupid. What are you talking about? If you think Dana White had something to do with the decisioning, of course he does. Do you think that sometimes Dana White, when it comes down to it, that he doesn't tell certain referees or certain judges, says, listen, this dude at the end of the day is more marketable for us. He's going to be worth more money. If this dude has to be collateral damage, if the fight is close enough, maybe I'll pay you a little bit, or maybe overall I'll give you a little bit if you score for this guy. Maybe overall, there'll be some advantages in it for you later on down the line. Of course that happens. Of course it does. No doubt in my mind. Happens in every single sport out there.
In this fight.
And Nadal stays, throwing an elbow and a forehand. Hussein has now been given a 1-point deduction. Nagreklamo si Sir Felix. A deduction, a 1-point deduction has been slapped by Padilla.
Now, this is when Padilla said that Manny Pacquiao, he headbutted Hussein.
He batted the other guy. Just a cut. I said, again, I declare it a punch. But it's if there is a bat, you have to stop the bench to the judges. Headbutt. That's a point deduction. But if you don't do that, the fight continues, meaning to say it's a good, clean punch. So, it's not really big and it's not really, but I never stopped the doctor to check. I want to see it. Serious? Later on, I know, because they said, better knock that guy, Manny. Because, in the Philippines, we will be in trouble.
Okay, yeah, so the subtitles are definitely off. Right there, just in case you didn't understand what Padilla said, he said he overheard Manny Pacquiao's team saying, you need to knock this guy out to win the fight. They knew that they were way behind on the scorecards. And that's where, once again, the referee Padilla came in.
Inside position, bakit niya? Ayun. Tatawagin na ni referee Padilla yung doktor. Itatawag na ngayon. Mag-ringside position sa wakas. Tinawag ni Carlos Padilla.
함께라면 분명 이겨낼 수 있어. 마침내 7번째 세계.
Tinawag ni Carlos Padilla.
Guys, let me tell you, if there was an admission like this in any other sport, this would be the biggest story in that entire sport. Matter of fact,
I would somewhat agree with that, but that does show you overall, once again, how dirty the sport of boxing is.
this would be one of the biggest stories in news, period. But of course, not in the sport of boxing. You see, the reason why Padilla, he was willing to get on camera and laugh about this, because he's telling us that this is a normal practice in the sport of.
I would somewhat agree with that. Because overall boxing, once again, it, when it comes down to it, just does not have as much order as some of the other sports, or it is more crooked, more dirtier than a lot of the other sports out there.
Boxing. Not just him, but all of the referees knows the tricks of the trade. I remember Jesse Brinkley from The Contender. He was fighting on ESPN, and the referee's name was Draculich. He was one of the main refs in all of the big fights. And I remember that name because, of course, it stood out. So I was watching that fight on ESPN. I forgot who Jesse was fighting, but he gets hit with a body shot that drops him, right? So he's sitting on the canvas in pain. Well, Draculich, he kneels down, gets really close to Jesse Brinkley, and he tells Jesse Brinkley to say it was a low blow. Jesse's listening to him. As soon as he heard him say that, Jesse immediately started to act as if he had got caught with a low blow. So then, of course, the referee, Draculich, he gives Jesse Brinkley even more time to recover. And it was funny because this was all caught on camera. And when the ESPN commentators, when they heard it, they all kind of laughed about it. I mean, they actually played the audio that you could hear clearly. Draculich telling this fighter to say it was a low blow. And I tell you, after that fight, Draculich did not lose any gigs. He was still covering all of the biggest fights in boxing. So just like the police have their code of silence, it looks like the boxing industry has their code of silence as well. I mean, just think about it, guys. How many times have you been watching a fight where it looks like the referee was actually trying to help buy a fighter time after he got hurt, knocked down, or whatever the scenario was? We see this all the time.
I would agree. And I think all in all that it tends to happen. However, if you are alleging with the Tyson Fury situation that they were cheating for Tyson Fury, I don't know if I can really agree with that. Because whenever it came to the first fight, Tyson Fury was pretty much able to get back up on time. And Jack Reese, he pretty much overall has a consistent overall count to where he will give the fighter, I'm not going to say extra time, but he gives them a little bit more time to clear their head, especially in a big championship fight. He did the same thing with Tony Harrison against Jamel Charlo. So he's someone that has a consistent style of reffing. And then of course you have Jose Mora, I believe was his name, and he gave the same amount of time to Tyson Fury as to Deontay Wilder. So I don't think that alleging that Fury overall cheated Wilder, I'm sorry, I just don't see that as very logical. It just is what it is. I don't think that there's really a great amount of evidence for it. Really, I don't think that there's any evidence for it. But the reason why Dante and these guys keep on alleging it once again is because they're very butthurt. They're very, very disappointed. They're very sad. And once again, they're very deeply depressed overall that their boy Deontay Wilder ended up losing, especially to a Shrek-looking Caucasian in Tyson Fury. Let me not state that overall when it comes out. I'm just messing around. But, to a dude all in all, that is a big white boy. They're very pissed off. Anyway.
And now we know why. Well, let me rephrase that. We always knew why, but now it's just confirmed even more. The WBC released this interview about 24 hours ago, and the majority of the biggest boxing websites, they haven't reported on it yet. Man, it's crazy when you just look at all the corruption that exists in the sport of boxing today. I mean, from racist boxing judges that are still judging fights today, to corrupt referees like Carlos Padilla, who jokes about taking what would have been the biggest win of Nadal Hussein's career. Do you guys know?
I agree. Very, very unfortunate because you never know what is going to end up happening when a certain fighter ends up winning a fight or when a certain basketball team ends up winning or losing a series, when a football team may end up winning or losing a certain game or a series. So, you just never know what's going to happen. It's very, very unfortunate because sometimes when a team or when a fighter ends up winning a specific fight, that transforms them into having the confidence overall for the next 10 to 15 years and then transforming into a great or an all-time great fighter. Same with certain football teams or basketball teams. So it's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. You have to feel the course for Nadal Hussein or whatever the man's name is. Very, very unfortunate.
It took Hussein another 3 years after he lost to Manny Pacquiao to get a title shot, despite the fact that he didn't lose again after the Manny Pacquiao fight. That is another loss that Manny Pacquiao should have had on his record. And this is further proof that Tyson Fury should have losses on his record as well.
Actually, no, it's not proof overall that Tyson Fury should have more losses on his record at all because the two are not correlated. Jose Padilla is not the referee for the Tyson Fury fight. That's not what happened at all, and it's a completely different circumstance. So Dante really doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, but he's giving overall, he's getting on his period because once again, he's very depressed that his boy, that his husband, Deontay Wilder, ended up losing to Tyson Fury.
Actually have more to say on this video, but I got to wrap it up. But I will wrap it up by saying this. For the boxers out there that want to clean the sport up and they want to fight corruption in their sport that they participate in, one of the best things you can do is start using those huge platforms that you have and start to make sure that stories like this start to spread in the sport of boxing. So people...
Well, I would agree, Dante, but a lot of the bullshit that you always spread is false. I don't necessarily disagree with spreading information like this to where it's 100% accurate, to where there was some, shadiness going on here. But with the Tyson Fury allegations, all the shit that you pretty much have been alleging, it's pretty much been proven false.
See the corruption that's taking place today. If old media is not going to do their job and report on the biggest stories in the sport, then once again, the boxers that really care about corruption should be sharing these stories. That racist boxing judge, Gloria Martinez, who's still judging boxing matches today and is openly racist to black people.
And I would agree with that. If you're a racist or a so-called racist, if you're a person that clearly has had racial, issues in the past, you can never be a boxing judge or a boxing referee, in my opinion, because you never know when that's going to come back up. It's almost like when you take a look at a person that, is a rapist, you can never have them, work in a daycare. You can never have them overall work in a preschool or anything like that, because you never know when that issue is going to happen again. That would be putting, other people's careers or lives in jeopardy. You can't do that. So it is what it is. So I agree with Dante there. However, the problem a lot of the times with Dante that I see is that, once again, a lot of the bullshit that he ends up talking about that is alleged controversy, a lot of the times there really is no controversy behind it. He's just trying to make something out of nothing.
I would expect black boxers to definitely want to make sure that the whole boxing world knows about this judge, so you don't end up becoming another one of her victims if she ends up judging your fight. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out.
But anyways, I just thought that I would talk about that. I do agree with some of Dante's points here overall. I did not think that all the points that he brought up were bad here. Now, once again, do I think that, he's going a little bit too far with alleging the cheating with Tyson Fury? Yes, but we all know why that is. Once again, he's very depressed that his boy Deontay Wilder lost, and he's never going to admit that Tyson Fury won fairly. Never. So it is what it is. But anyways, that's really about it for today. I just thought that I would talk about that because that's a very touchy subject for some people, and I thought that it'd be very particularly interesting to talk about. But anyways, that's really about it for today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.